Smallwood, because that's why we're all here today. I met Phillip about 6 or 7 years ago through New Jersey Watercolor, and I started to follow his artwork. And Phillip does really amazing watercolors because he's a storyteller and an artist. And you'll see in his pieces, he has people, but his people have stories and thoughts, and they're thinking about things, and that's one thing I love about his paintings. It is not just me that thinks this. When I went online, I noticed the Harlem Times was reviewing one of Philip's shows, and he said his artistic vision is unique, specific, and intentional. Phillip does amazing work with light and shadow, so you'll see as he paints today. And I was also amazed to find he is mostly self-taught. So this is just a very talented man who is here today, and thank you for sharing your talent with us.
Thank you. Know where you're trying to get to before you touch the paper. So I just wanted to share that with you. My process is long and arduous. I don't know how much we're going to get done in a short time span. I'll do the best I can. But hopefully that's some information into me and how I view the work and how I approach the work. Okay? Yes?
How do you decide what to do?
You know, there's just so many. That's like, you know, what's your favorite song? I mean, there's just so much to choose from. And oftentimes for me, it's one single thing. It's a blade of light. It could be the color. And of course, with individuals, and I have to work with the camera because it's so instantaneous to capture emotion. But the light, I'm like a real disciple of light. And in watercolor, you know, we cherish it because we have to preserve it, we have to plan for it, we have to work around it. And people often ask me, well, why so much work in your backgrounds? Because since I came to this on my own accord I've had tons of courses now, mind you. I'm not without any education. But I sort of found my own way through this. And I think as an artist, that's important to all of us because we're not looking to emulate somebody else's voice. We're looking to find our own. So hopefully we can see a little of some of that show up on the paper. And again, questions. I love it. I do want to pass this around real quick. And what I did this morning is because I work so slow and methodic, I just wanted to pass this around. This is the starting blank that we'll be going with. And I did a wash on it this morning just to kind of differentiate the light and some of the things that I'll be looking to accentuate in the piece.
What kind of paper is that?
I have become very fond of Twin Rocker, which is a handmade paper. I think they're in Indiana, Iowa, somewhere, Midwest. But they've stopped making the real big sheets because it's so costly to ship. So, and I've just started to work on some really large scale landscapes. That's 140, yes. As you get a little bit larger, you want a little bit more weight. Right. And while you're looking at that, I am a purist in that never Chinese white or any gouache is over top of a already predetermined wash. I don't do that. What I do is I preserve my whites. And you say, well, wow, that process takes a heck of a lot more time. And you would be right. Why do I do it? That's a better question. But yeah, and also transparent watercolor seems to be my thing. Although I started with gouache and because of the brilliance of the color. But if you guys, certainly you know that within the transparent watercolor family, there are very opaque colors that almost act like a gouache. So you'll keep that in mind if in fact you want to lay something light over a darker passage. So.
What type of paints do you use?
Typically Winsor & Newton. Yeah, I don't really shy away from that. Yeah, if I see a color that really, wow, I'll pick it out, throw it in the box.
Do you want to tell us about your brushes also while that's going on?
Well, I'll say this. This is my box. And this is just an accumulation of, and you know, I never throw the, because you always lose a cap and they always dry out, but you can cut them open and go inside and get what you need. So, smorgasbord of color. Brushes, you want the best brushes you can put your hands on. Do not waste your time with craft store brushes. What's your time worth? So if you're gonna put the time in, your material is, especially with watercolor, because it's relatively inexpensive, right? You want really good paper, and how you determine that is by using a lot, because I got this hot press stuff from Twin Rocker, and I don't love it. And they're $80 a sheet.
Oh.
And I bought 6-7 sheets, so you know I gotta use it, but I don't love it. And you only know this by using something. And you'll have an affinity for certain substrates that speak to your work, your process, and give you a better finished product. So that's the last thing you want to do is fight with the paper. So, yes?
I just want to. That's okay. I'm only going for the audio.
I'm a professional with a lot of, I won't say a huge amount of debt, but a reasonable amount of debt. I didn't start to paint for money. Okay, that was never the origin or the genesis of this journey. The genesis was I fell in love with the medium, and through that I was encouraged to show. It started at a regional, you know, the outdoor shows, Festival in the Park, blah, blah, blah. Then it went to the statewide venues, and then I started traveling all over the country. So, but now I've got so much invested, I have to consider money. Now, there was a love affair, started and morphed, and now this is my sole means of income. So I'm lucky in that I'm one of those, the few artists that is actually deriving their living from their work. A lot of us are forced to teach, supplement, do other things, raise a family, all that good stuff. But
So when you start to paint, when you start a painting, you start a work, is it from here?
Well,
Or is it from?
no, I'll tell you why it's not from here, because you're not going to motivate your clients from here. You're going to motivate them from here. So that really has got to be the overwhelming energy that I'm trying to convey a message. Okay, now, you know, the business, this is a business for me. And I've invested quite a bit. This is 25 years in. And like most careers in the arts, it's front end heavy, meaning you a lot of out, a lot of out, a lot of out, a lot of out. So think about it much like a doctor. When you finish your residency and now you got to go to work, you expect to get paid because you've got all the investment in your career. So my mindset now is very different because now I have galleries that I have to provide for. I have a clientele base that I do a lot of commission work. So yes, it's important that. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay, good. Without further ado, put this over here. This also is my reference photo that I'll be working from to give me some guidelines. And you know, I try not to, you know, be so locked into the photo. But my first step with this would be.
Just gonna zoom in just a little bit.
Okay, let me get some paint going here.
You're doing fine.
And I should have gotten some better paint, but we'll make it work.
Oh, that's
Is that okay? Can you guys hear me? All right, and here I am with a dry tube. I'm gonna old school it just to get something on my palette. And I like the Pikes palette because you can pack it up, you can take it. And once you get a little juice in these things, they'll give you something. And the other thing is this, people often ask me, they says, well, you know, do you have a consistent color palette for, you know, African Americans or other nationalities? And to be quite honest, it's the same palette for all. It's just a lack of intensity. I mean, much like it happens in the real world. Everybody's got melanin. It's just some folks have more than others. Okay, this is going a little slow. Let me see, can I juice this up? But what I want to do here now is I want a unifying wash over the face. And because she's a fairly dark-skinned young lady in the sun. And that's another thing. You'll often see my works outdoors, and the reason being is you just can't compete with that contrast inside. It's very difficult.
Let's keep going. I'm going to try to.
You almost have to go to a black.
In position. Can you see any better?
Now, there are folks in the audience that have questions about skin tone and that sort of thing. Oh, you guys were worked that out?
Wrong way. Wrong way, Corrigan. Okay.
You've worked that out, the skin tone dilemma?
That's pretty good.
That's good? Okay.
You don't have a whole thing yet, but it's good.
Now, see, I could have just benefited from it. Pull this together.
Could you move that to your,
Which?
to your left, or to your right?
This?
Yeah, everything to your right.
This?
The other right. The other right.
The other, you know I'm dyslexic.
There you go.
Okay, all right. Because what I want to do is I don't want to start too light, because with watercolor, if you, and I'm a glazer, first of all, let me just tell you that. That means that I get my finished passages by series of glazes and glazes and glazes versus trying to get there in one fell swoop. And the reason I like that is you got a little bit more control and it adds a little bit more dimension. And you see I'm going to add a little bit of this quinachrone here.
Now I'm going to push it back just a tad more.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
All right, we're bleeding a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Oh, yes, is this it? No, that's it. What's this? All right, we're just gonna substitute something here. As I could be a minute trying to juice up this thing. Okay. And I was saying that I don't have a formula because I don't like skin tones, you know, all people looking the same, even if they're darker skinned people. I always try to freshen it up. Okay. Let me put this here. All right, but we're gonna start. Let's see. Okay, I'm really not positioned that great here for this. Okay, we're gonna come in here. And I like a number 6. That really is my brush of choice. The
Number 6 by whom?
I like Lowe's, Cornell.
Uh-huh.
I like Winsor & Newton, of course. You know, the sables are really what you want. And I'm going to be moving much faster than I would normally for the sake of our demo.
Do you know who the young lady is?
I do. My sister sells insurance in South Carolina. And whenever I'm down there, I always want to ride with her, you know, when she does her runs, because, you know, she's got a lot of clients in what I would call off the beaten road, the path. So, yeah, most of these people, very seldom am I painting somebody I don't know. And I guess one of the good things about that is that for some strange reason, again, here comes the intent piece. When you know somebody, for some reason, there's just a different kind of level of communication. And oftentimes, it's even subconscious. You're not even aware of it.
How long do you keep a brush?
Forever. I just use it for different stuff. Now, you know, once it loses its point and then it's chiseled, then it becomes a work brush. It becomes a workhorse then, at that point. But I typically don't throw them out, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes if I need to manufacture a crazy brush or something, I don't mind playing around with something that's already shot versus, okay.
Where is your studio now?
I'm in New Milford, which is Bergen County up near Teaneck. Okay, I think I'll pull this brush out. Yeah. And, you know, you have some people that have this thing, well, you know, I don't like to work with small brushes. I look at myself as a fabricator, not so much as an artist. And I'll tell you because of my background in furniture. So as a fabricator, your job is to recreate something. So somebody might give you an existing piece of furniture and say, listen, I want one like it. Or they might show you a picture in a magazine, say, can you do this? So, but the job of the fabricator is to recreate. When you get caught up in the artist business, it just really puts a different connotation on things. And I think it hangs people up a bit. I really do. Because when you break this down, what are you doing? You are literally, and this is my interpretation, you're staining paper. Okay, all of this is a series of stains. So if you really want to break it down to the most simplistic form, the unit, these are stains. So, but the key is to control your staining and to be able to, because I work so dry, one of the challenges is integrating one passage into another, right? Okay, I'm gonna use a little of this quinachrome. It's strong, so you got to really...
Developing your thought about fabricator as opposed to artist, would you consider your approach more graphic in nature than artistic painterly?
More graphic? I don't think so. At least that I don't see it that way. You've introduced something a little bit different to me. And see, this side of the face too, I'm going in here, even though one thing I started with a little sienna, and then I added some quinachrome in there. And if you add enough water to that, it sort of becomes a little purplish.
So you're using the same color but with more wash?
Well, I'm using, actually, I got two colors going here. I got the quinachrome, which is got an element of red to it, right? But it's very strong. So when you're using it, and I want to get some of this too in the event that I need it, you have to go on sparingly, because as you know, one thing, it's okay with watercolor to go a little too light and then come back with another wash to intensify it. But if you go on too heavy, then that might present a little problem. Okay, now, what I want to do now is I want to get in there before this thing gets really hard on me. And I'm getting water on my photo, which I don't want to do. But before this thing gets really hard on me. There's a reflection on her chin. And reflective light, too. A lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to it, but it's a big part of the overall process. And I'm gonna back a little bit of this off here because she's got a little bit of light coming from the ground. Not all light comes from above. Okay, so now I want to pull this together. And she's got these really established, I guess that would be a little furrow in the brow there. Okay, now I'm gonna do, because I got a large expanse in the neck that's pretty much in shade, I wanna go back there. Really need a bigger brush. I'm gonna go back and just start to bring this up.
Does twin rocket paper stay wet for a while?
Well, you know what? I typically, some people wet their paper from the back and put it on plastic.
Yeah.
And see, for the kind of work that I do, because I'm not really a wet-on-wet guy, I don't need my paper to stay wet for tremendous amounts of time. Because I'm not that guy, or at least if I were doing a sky or a large passage of ocean or something like that, it was a large expanse, right? Where I needed the paper to stay wet a little bit longer, I would maybe, and even when I wet the paper up, it's rare. If I like just really soak the paper, because think about it, if I'm a dry brush guy, that's not something I do a lot of. Right? That's not something I do a lot of. And she's got this. Let's see, you know, we're not going to be able to get to the nuances of the piece, okay? That's just not going to happen in today's session. Somebody want to give me a time? What are we,
Yeah, it is.
15 in?
It is 20 to 3. You've got about an hour.
Okay. All right, and we got the clavicle there coming through.
Philip, are you already considering colors you're going to use in the background?
Well, I'm going to stay consistent with what you got here, this lime green, because I've painted this girl and this house, quite honestly, 15, 20 times. So, and this is one of the colors that's tricky to get to. A lime is a tricky color to get to with what you have in your watercolor arsenal. But what I tend to do with that is I have to cheat and bring in a little either gouache or casein to achieve that color. That's one of the colors that just is very hard to duplicate. And sometimes you gotta cheat. And I've often been asked too, listen, what happens if something doesn't quite go the way you plan? Listen, I have yet to meet a piece of paper with more determination than me. Yet. And that means if I have to take a razor blade, I don't like it. A piece of sandpaper, I don't like it. But I won't trash 10, 15, 20 hours of work. And here's one of the things in the watercolor game that you guys have to know about. This here, it isn't even a watercolor brush. Can you see it?
Hold it down by the painting. Hold it down. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, it's a chiseler. And this really is for acrylic and oil paints. And what this will allow you to do, it'll allow you to back off something, to go in and scrub it out. I mean, of course, depending on the level of, what's the word I'm searching for? The staining ability. But there's a word in watercolor. What is that, Mark? Permanence. When you see permanence on a color, right? That means that it's tough to back out. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm trying to drop the little bit of a suggestion of an eye. And that is probably a little too much. I don't want that quite as pronounced as that. Okay, but and then is that and see, also, I'm going to show you where the value of this brush. You see these hard lines here? They will kill a drawing and a painting. And if you wait too long, sometimes you can't get them back. All right? I didn't wait too long on this, so I was able to soften those lines up because I really don't want those hard edges on my painting, huh?
What's that brush called?
This one, it's called a flat. I mean, it's a good question because I never looked to see what they call the thing. I just buy it. And they're cheap too. So they don't cost anything. But I find these brushes invaluable, to be quite honest. I find these brushes to be invaluable. And you see, I'm going to go ahead and again, I don't like the hardness of this. This is going to be problematic when I come back to it. So I want to take this down a little bit because, like a ball, there's no hard transitions in form. There's no hard transitions. There's just transitions. Okay, let's see. All right, what I'm going to do here now, because I've got a dark passage of. You guys at home when you paint, do you find yourself picking up stuff and you got something under your arm, you got stuff in all hands? It's ridiculous.
In my mouth.
Oh my God, it's crazy, right?
And we're talking to ourselves.
I tell you, the life of an artist.
Dipping the brush into the coffee and drinking the coffee.
Listen, I wanted to do a painting with just coffee. I still wanted to just staining and see where I get with it.
We've done coffee painting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How'd it come out?
It comes out great.
Okay, now you know what, because the light is coming from, typically, well, not the light, but the viewer is lower than the subject here. And I often like that perspective in the drawing. For some reason, it gives you a different kind of approach. I'm gonna mess up my.
How do you determine when you're done? It's finished.
Well, you know the rule of thumb is when you can't improve it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't think you can add something that's gonna add value to the painting, typically it's all over that. You see my brush got a little wicky-wacky. And again, with watercolor, here's a tenet. Start with the color you want to end up with. Now, a color could have multiple colors and hazes to it, but the color that you want to end up with is the color you must start with. If you want to end up with a yellow, you can't start with a green. Okay, now you can have tints and different aspects of that in there, but if you guys understand what I mean, if you're gonna say a color has 6, 7 washes in it, and maybe just the initial wash is the color that you want to end up with, and as you come back to it, then it becomes more. And what I'm doing now is adding, and see, I would typically wait till this dried and then come back, but we don't have that kind of time. What do you guys darken with skin tone? What color do you use? Or colors?
Where's John?
I use 3 colors primarily.
Okay.
Rose madder genuine, yellow ochre, and cerulean blue, but mostly for skin. Those first 2 for skin. Now sometimes I might substitute brown madder instead of rose madder. But I don't have, with 1 or 2 exceptions, I don't have experience in painting African Americans. I think I did a couple, and I don't know how to get those colors. So mine are basically Caucasian, so I'm good with those colors. So what would I see you using? Would you say burnt sienna and quinacridone, gold? What else? If the African Americans really had a black,
Well, you can.
how would you get that?
You can use brown madder is a color I often use in skin tone. You can use any of the siennas. You can use brown ochre. That also will work for you.
Brown ochre?
Yep.
Yeah, not yellow ochre.
Not yellow ochre, brown ochre.
Okay.
But my skin darkener is the, and this is regardless of ethnicity or skin color. Foreskin is one of the, oh my God, one of the, I can never remember this name. And it's a key. It's key. I mean, this is probably one of the most important colors in my kit here. There's a blue and a yellow. What am I talking about? I'm talking about aquamarine. French aquamarine or French ultramarine. Either one of those. And listen, like the Prussians, the really dark indigos and things like that, can also be used.
Have you ever used a purple?
I do. And you see here, this color here, that ended up purple. The combination. I'm gonna add some more.
If I zoom in a little more.
Okay, and I want to chisel this eye out a little bit.
Philip, let me know when you want clean water.
You know what? Because we're working in these shades, we're not going to need to change it. I don't believe. I'm having problems staying up with my.
Well, I can see it purple.
And see, I'm even going to add a little bit of. Going to even add a little brown, because when you're wet, colors don't have the same intensity. And because this lip is really in shade. Okay. And see, I don't like some of these. I got some really hard. Let me see. See, now I'm going to go in with some reds just to get some colors in the cheeks. That probably is a little stronger than I want it. Okay, if something is a little too intense for you, back it off a little bit.
Which red was that?
That was just a Windsor red. Because it was wet, if I was to put that on dry, I'd have a problem because it'd be too intense. My color, it wouldn't give me what I needed to do. Okay, this is all on this side of the. Yeah. Okay, what I'm gonna do here is. I have not established that ridge in the nose. And listen, if you want to go ahead and mask out your highlights, that's perfectly fine. And I do that sometime if they're so small, you just can't work around them. And you guys have come across that, where a highlight is so small, and it's important, but there's no way you can work around it. So you have to use masking fluid. I prefer the Frisket, the Winsor & Newton.
Philip, if you do mask, how do you not get a hard edge?
Well, you will get a hard edge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot of ways around that. Now, what you can do during the drying process is you can start to blot the edges and, maybe add a little bit of water, that kind of thing. But if you allow paint to dry, you're probably going to get the hard edge, right? And there's a little thing here. And I'll say this too, it makes sense if you're a realistic painter to put the time into your drawing too. People, oftentimes too anxious to get to the painting before the drawing is really where they need it to be. So, take the time. And because the draftsmanship is important. It's tough to go back if you've drafted poorly. Think about it, and you got a lot of work in there, and you go back and say, wow, it wasn't quite right. I'd spend a little bit more time on the, and this here is the ultramarine. Okay, you remember that I was trying to preserve that little side of the face there because there was a little bit of reflected light there. Let's see, those are the little things that are important to me. And I want a little bit more even in this lip here. It's not quite where I need it to be. Okay? A little bit on the outside of that. Yeah. And even these are, you. Is that too wet? Yeah, that's still a little too wet. Okay, we can throw a little on the bottom lip. And the thing with I'd like to save these for, I'd like to save these for last. These highlights that, when you, the uppermost aspects of the highlights, I like to save those to last because you don't want to take them down too far and then can't get back. And this lip, yep, this lip is poked out, so that is going to require and again, I want this a little bit more over here because I want to show that that reflected light there. That's important. Now, let me see. Okay, let's see where we're at. All right, let me go and get a little hair in here. And one thing about the hair, man, the hair is a funny thing. If you try to overwork here, you're over before you began. Okay? And believe me, I've done it. But hair has to be done simplistically. And if you monkey around with it, oh, here goes my barrette. I don't wanna. And typically, I would have put something in there before. Because the first piece I did of this girl was called Blue Beret. It was this same pose. She was just, not this pose, but she was there. And I had another beret. Where is that one? Up at the top here. Okay, and I need brown in there. How we doing, folks?
We're good. You have about 40 minutes.
No,
Oh, other way.
the other way. The other way.
50/50. That's it. Bingo.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Art is an art.
Yes.
Well, Spielberg started to.
So Philip, are you using, is this a Payne's Gray?
Pardon me?
Is this a Payne's Gray?
No, actually, you know what? If you take any black, add a little blue to it,
Yeah.
you'd be right there.
Yeah.
So, because I'm using blues in some of this, it ends up that way.
Okay.
Yeah, you could start with the paints if you like. Just adding a little blue. She's got a little afro puff here. And see, what I'll do is I'll start with the dark color, and then I'll let that bleed out to something light as the hair, as we get to the edges of the hair. Okay. And you guys are making me work fast too, so keep that in mind.
We are.
Yeah. And you know something? It's funny. Every painter wants to be the painter that they are not. For instance, me, everything is tight, super tight, 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 tight. I want to be the loose guy. And I can't do it. And the loose guy wants to be the tight guy. The grass is always greener on the other side. And these edges I'll clean up because these are, okay. And again, and the beauty about glazing is you can continue. You can keep on moving. Like this here it's not dark enough on this side. And scumbling, you guys know what that is? Yes? I'll tell you. Anyway, that's where you have a passage already down, a wash, and you scumble over top of it, allowing aspects of the wash underneath to breathe through. And I want a little purple, so I'm going to make my own real quick. So I've totally, no, we're good. All right, can I get in there, these nostrils? I can. Okay, that has to be much darker. This here. Oh. All right. So it might be a little bit too, because this here. Okay. That's a little too intense. I'll back that off a little. And see, I'll have to wait till this. No, I don't have to wait. And while I'm doing this, you can see that I don't have let me see what I want to do now. Okay, what do I want to do now? I need a little bit of this.
Philip, each time you paint her, do you paint her the same way? Do you make?
No. I try, I don't want to be formulamatic in my paintings.
Yeah.
So I try to take a different approach. And they almost always end up different. Okay, we need something light on the outside. This is when I'll come in with a little of this. Okay, not on the...
Philip, what is her story? Why did you choose to paint her?
Well, you know what? It's funny because when I met this young lady, I was there to photograph another child. And she was kind of just observing the process. And it was just something about this kid. You don't always know exactly what it is. But she was, her shyness was really, it was pretty palpitating, is what it was.
How old is she?
It was. This photo is probably 20-something years old. She's a young lady now, yeah.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, they grow up. Just add a little of this to the ends here. I'm trying to preserve this little barrette. You see, I'm struggling with it. Okay. I need a little bit more. This is not. This is not. And you see, I'm trying to preserve that eyelash like all the get out. And this needs to be a little bit darker in here. And one of my processes, toward the end, it's called the beating down the whites. And what that means is if you've done a masterful job at saving the whites, you have all these little specks of white that are really distracting if you don't handle them right. So I have a process at the end of my paintings called beating down the whites. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna add a little something in here.
Which whites are important to save?
Which whites are important to save? Well, obviously your highlights, right?
Right.
And anything else that you think is adding, quality to the painting. Because somebody asked me, when are you done? You're done when you can't improve it anymore. Now, if you're just painting to be painting, and you're not making it a better painting, you're done. And see, this is all, you're done at that point, in my estimation, with watercolor. Now, oils is a totally different conundrum. You're not done till you say you're done. Sometimes watercolor tells you you're done. Hey, man, it's over. Okay, and then I'm gonna show you how I get to this this weird color. And again, this is one of the few times that I'll use any white because I honestly don't know another way to get to that green without it. And for me, I'm an intuitive painter, and what that means is, you know, I don't assess processes so much as I am looking for the desired effect. And I think that also keeps me open to trying new stuff too, because it's nothing like, you know, running out of tricks.
Philip, could you see if you can move it just a little bit
This?
to your right there?
Is that better?
Yeah, I want to get the hair in there.
Okay. Sorry, guys. And she's got this huge, it's an overbite, but it shows up as a cleft right here in the cheek. And listen, at this point I'm just grabbing paint. And you know something? This you all know, that color does not make the work. Values make the piece. Now, color can enhance it, for sure, but if you had to be strong in one area, it would be the value area. Because you can use any color. I could have did her in green. It really wouldn't have changed the complexity much. That make sense?
Yes.
And this is the shadow under the nose. And here's the thing with the dry brush. The dry brush is, you really got to be crafty. It's like a seamstress. You do the arm, then you do the sleeve, then you do the collar, and then you do all these other pieces back to the fabrication, and then you put them all together. Okay, and again, this is a series of continuing to build and build until she's doing what you want her to do. And again, that overbite right there, I don't know that I've represented that. Right here. Let me see, how's that? Needs to be darker back here. Okay, now I'm gonna attempt to do the background color. What's this is okay. Okay.
Philip, about 30 minutes.
Okay, you seem to be doing okay. I need some more color up in there. And I want that cheek. I want more of that. A little too strong. That's a little too strong. That red. Well, but you know what? Watercolor's tricky like that because what seems strong when it's wet, oftentimes, as you guys know, ain't so strong when it dries. really painting in the abstract now. Okay, I didn't bring this up too. You see where I stopped this? So I don't know, something happened and I lost my track. And it's hard once you get an established line in watercolor to come back and work right up against it like you had never, been there, like it never even happened, that commercial. But you see, I rely deeply on this ultramarine. No, I got nothing there. I don't want that line. And that's where that scrubber comes in too. And this, when somebody really knows how to handle watercolor, the stains and they all seem to be just in the right place. See that shadow? And I've worked all painting to keep this little thing right here, under this reflective light. Okay. Go in there. Now that's. See this. See, I need some more. I need more base, so just for time. I typically don't like to, use a lot of black, but sometimes just to get there quickly, you got to do it.
I see you're keeping her eyebrows white.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take that down. By the time I finish, it's just going to be like you took a razor and just a little scratchy scratch there.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. No. Okay, and she's got a little... Okay, and you see this here? I'm going to take this, little water on it. You see how I brought that back? Reestablish that little high. Okay. Let's see. I want to bring that up a little bit more, that side. Okay. Yeah. See, this is way too strong for me there. Way too strong for me here, this line. Okay, and this also is a little strong. Take this.
Other way.
Okay, you know what? Now,
That's it.
I want to just take this and
Where you going, pal?
No, I'm gonna stay here. I just want to.
I'm talking to the lady.
Okay, I just want to lean over this guy and work it from this perspective at this point.
No.
Am I in the way?
That way? Okay.
Yeah, that way. And down a little bit.
And which way?
Yeah, that's it.
Right there.
Right there.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe and don't move. Thanks.
So, she coming.
Is there a typical size paper that you work with?
No, not really. I've been doing some really large landscapes, like, and then, but I don't want to do anything much smaller than this, because you know it's not that much less work, to tell you the truth. Let's see.
You describe your home,
Pardon me?
studio?
My studio?
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate enough to build my studio, my own studio. So I've got light coming from 3 directions. And I have perfect sunlight, I'm in southern exposure. But what I will say is that I think it's important that you work under full spectrum bulbs to really get a clear outdoor perspective of your hues. Incandescent light is terrible to work from, if you ask me. And you guys have the little hoops with the magnifiers in there when you need to blow something up and look through it? No. The one with the light in it?
Yeah, I got one.
But those lights, you can get them in full spectrum bulbs because they just come with fluorescence. And it doesn't give you the best depiction of true color. Because incandescent turns everything, as you know, yellow. And I just think that it's not the greatest aspect to work from. And I'm gonna bring this cheek bone around me. Ooh, what am I stepping on the wire? Okay, all right, let's see if we can get a little, this is a little hard here for me. That's a little hard. But you see how nicely that just blended that in? That's why I love these brushes. That's why I love these brushes. Okay, one more. I don't like this either. It's too hard. This is also very hard up here. We had this here has, oh, okay, this, I want to get this. Okay, there's that overbite there, man. See, that's a detail I would spend hours with in the real world. Okay, this is out down here. That's not there. I can't get any juice on here for some reason.
Philip, I see you've got some lots of drips around.
I normally, no. What I would do is I would set little shields, you know, in place to circumvent that sort of stuff. And then sometimes you want a piece to have a little painterly splatter.
I would love that, but I didn't know if it bothered you.
Yeah, well, listen, you know, I lay awake at night, wonder how I allowed that drop to spill. Because think about it, if you've got a really deep pigment and you're bringing your brush over a nice clean passage of sky or something and boop. So guards, no, they're good. They're good.
Well, they become birds if they're in the sky.
All right, I'm just gonna clean this up and see can I mix up a little of that green and start to, yeah, but I mean, and this is a patience game too, and I try to tell people this, listen, and I don't want to impose my views on art on anybody because, you know, everybody has what this means to them. And, but if you're looking for a career in the arts, this is something more than a casual pursuit, then you should be able to take a little bit more criticism. So I don't want to give it when, you know, this is just a casual pursuit, man. But if you tell me this is how I want to derive my money, this is how I want to make my income, and back to the gentleman's question about, you know, do you do this for the love of it, or do you do it for the compensation? It started with love. Until I got until I got $500,000 in debt behind my art career. And then it became more than a game. But if you're going to put that time and effort into something, then, you know, you want to at least give yourself a good chance of some level of success, right? And again, I may have went a little too far with some of these, but okay. And you can see I can play with this. I could be here at midnight. You come in here, yeah, still tickling it. So, but you know, like any addiction, because that's exactly what this is, you know, you have to get your fix. And you know something, it's funny, the money question, but before the money, there was never any pressure. This was fun. This was fun. Now, you know, I got everything riding on this thing, my house included. It's not fun anymore. I shouldn't say it's not fun anymore. It's not the same type of fun, okay? And I just put a little bit of this casein, this white, titanium white artist gouache. And I told you I did that because I didn't know any other means of getting to that, what's the color I'm trying to get to? Almost like a mint. And try this when you get home. Try to recreate a mint with tube colors. It's not easy. And listen, this is also one of those colors that you'd be hard pressed to find this color up north. This is one of them colors down south that, that's a little too, I can maybe add a little yellow to that. Okay, but there's my attempt at the mint. All right?
Yellow was that? What other colors?
I added a little bit of the what is it? The yellow ochre.
Yellow oak.
Mm-hmm.
What was the green?
Viridian. And see, and with this you got to be careful because it's got a level of casein in it. If it goes over top, it's just not green enough for me yet. Okay, there's something.
Wow, big brush.
Yeah. And you see there's this huge bright spot and because of my background in woodworking, you know, every top sash has to be in a track, not the same track as the bottom sash. And you guys have seen that, where windows don't open. I want to cuss, but I won't. And because, you know, I'm a guy that did that kind of work, mullion work and sash work, I'm very particular about how I paint it. And you know what? I'll share with you guys too, because obviously this is not a finished product. And it's not like I'll leave it here. I will take this back and continue to play with it.
When you finish it at home, would you send me an image?
I will.
Please?
I will, so you guys can see the finished product.
Please send it to me, I'll make sure everybody in the group has it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great green.
Isn't it? It's unusual. And you know, every time I paint it, it's a little different because I'm guessing what I did the first time around. And that's the piece that I like, that, you know, I didn't write it down. Oh my God, you got 2 parts of this. You know, I have a friend and she's quite accomplished in the real world, but when she pulls out a cookbook, oh my God, it's something, a sight to be seen. Every little detail. And what's nice about this wood too, you can really play with it because it's that, you guys have seen that knotty cypress that has all the wormholes and stuff in it. Yeah. So you can see what I'm trying to do here. I don't know if I was successful or not.
We have about 10 minutes, Phil.
Okay. Trying to give you some idea of the pain and agony I go through. Trying to get this right. And she has a beautiful yellow striped shirt. And see, I'm a real stickler for wardrobe. So
you wouldn't change what she's wearing?
well, you know what? Now, if you want to create another 3, 4, 5 hours, then tackle that striped shirt. So, you know, it all comes down to how much time you got to play around with it, that sort of thing. Okay, but there's a lot about this that's nice, and there's some of it that's a little bit rough around the edges. But you have to be careful with this too, especially over a really intense wash, because it'll just take it out. It'll just knock it right out. Okay, I need some more back here. And because, you know, in real life, nothing stays white. right? The very end of this thing, you'll come back.
What
And-
color is that you're filling in with?
This here, it's a very diluted Windsor red. It's just so much water in it, it's pink. That's the great thing about watercolor. It's so diverse, man. Okay. Did I go too far in there on that? Let's see. It's actually, I don't think I did. But we can get a little bit more of that pink in there. Yeah, because you can see the white just jumps out at you. You really have to be careful with your whites in that you don't allow them to be so distractive that they don't play nicely with the other colors. A little bit more build up over here. Again, this is not going to be lilac. It's going to be lighter, but okay. And right now, she doesn't have any eyebrows or none of that good stuff. Yeah. Okay, there's something here. What is this, more here? I guess, huh? Where was I? Oh, you got my place? Let's see, what do we got? Okay, and oop. Okay, we got a little bit of skin.
Got about 5 minutes.
Okay. What is this? Oh, this is the mic wire. She's coming. I don't know, folks. We did something here. I don't know exactly what. I want to drop some blue in there. Okay, I think that might be it for now. For now, that might be it. Okay, folks.
Philip, thank you. You did an amazing job.
I don't know what we did, but
You did a great job.
nobody left. And you're still here.
We're all here. Exactly. It's beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah, now I can see the purple that you put in.
Yeah.
It didn't really register. It'll come through on the actual video when we get it edited, but there's always a little washout on here, because that's why I turn the lights on.
Wow. Sorry. And it's so, I didn't realize you were working.